Now, let us look at the timing of automated application controls testing and sample sizes. The factors to be considered to determine the timing to test automated application controls. The period covered under audit. This is no different from any other audit procedure. The sample that we take should fall within the audit procedure or the audit period of our client. For example, if it is between April 1st and March 31st is the year of the audit, then we need to take a sample that comes within this audit period. The risk associated with the control at the time of risk assessment. So we also need to see what is the risk associated with the control and hence decide when to test this audit. If it should be, is it okay to test immediately or wait till the end of the year to test the control? So what are the assumptions that you need to keep in mind before testing automated application controls? One, GITCs are effective because they assist in effective functioning of application controls, including automated application controls. So if the business process team wants to make a change, they cannot go directly and make a change. They have to take the help of their IT team, who will open the system for them to make the change. Because at any point in time, as a routine, the business team will be only performing transactions. They will not be making changes to the configurations on a day-to-day basis. They'll only be passing transactions. So to make any changes, they need to take the help of the IT team. So for that, we have to see whether the GITCs are functioning effectively. The second assumption is the design of the control has been evaluated and is effective. As an auditor, to reiterate, there is no point in testing the operating effectiveness of the control if it has not been evaluated for design. If it has been evaluated and the design has failed, then there is no point in testing for operating effectiveness. If it has not been evaluated for design at all, then also there is no point in testing the control for operating effectiveness. And as per the requirements of the internal financial controls, the controls need to be operating as on the balance sheet date. Whether it is manual or automated, it doesn't matter. The controls need to be operating as on the balance sheet date. Once we have performed the evaluation of design and evaluation of operating effectiveness, we need to see whether there are any types of deficiencies in our testing. So what could be the two types of deficiencies? The first is design deficiency. And what do we mean by design deficiency? Any deficiency in a control which will not allow the management to perform their assigned functions. This deficiency may not prevent or detect misstatements. Such deficiencies are called design deficiency. Again, to go back to our example, take an instance wherein the chair, the asset class of the chair has been given wrongly, or the useful life has been defined wrongly, or the salvage percentage is wrong. That means even before you have gone, the system has gone ahead and calculated, there is a deficiency in the design itself. So in such a case, this is called a design deficiency. And we need to understand if such what is the magnitude of such deficiency and how will it impact the financial statements accordingly. Such deficiencies are called design deficiencies. Now, the second type of deficiency is called deficiency in operating effectiveness. A deficiency in operation exists when a properly designed control does not operate as designed, or when the person performing the control does not possess the necessary authority or competence to perform the control effectively. Again, let's go back to the same example. We saw the asset has been put in the correct class, the useful life has been given correctly as 60, the start date of the asset has been given correctly, the salvage percentage also has been correctly, but for some reason the system does not calculate the useful life or the depreciation correctly. There is a flaw in the calculation, there is an error, there is a mistake in the calculation. This type of error can be called an operating effectiveness deficiency. In addition to that, suppose the person performing the necessary function is not competent or does not have the necessary authority to perform the proper control, then such a type of deficiency is also called as operating effectiveness deficiency. Once you have understood that there is a deficiency, then what is the next step as an auditor that you are supposed to do or that you should do? We might want to perform some additional procedures or some additional tests to see what is the magnitude of the impact or in terms of numbers which is as a result of the deficiency in the control. So let us take another example to clarify. The company has implemented an automatic approval of all purchase orders. The company has a PO approval matrix and this hierarchy has been configured in the system. However, the auditor may have found out that the company has bypassed this control and placed orders based on blanket approval of purchase orders or no approval. So you have a company which has an automatic approval of purchase orders. The company has a PO approval matrix and this hierarchy has been configured in the system. You as an auditor have tested the hierarchy and are comfortable that the hierarchy has been defined correctly. So there is no problem in the design of the hierarchy, that is the approval process. But you find that the company, in addition to following the hierarchy, has also gone and placed purchase orders directly and bypassed the control by giving blanket approval of purchase orders or sometimes even no approval. So what you as an auditor should do, you can perform certain additional functions or additional tests to see what is the impact. As I said earlier, all the data is residing within the system. So you can get data for whichever test that you want to perform from the system itself. Let us see what sort of tests that we can do here to understand the magnitude of the deficiency in terms of financial amounts. Let's take a complete list of all purchase orders from the system. That's step number one. Using CATS or any other tool. What do I mean by CATS? It could be an Excel, it could be MS Access, etc. Any other tool. You identify all the purchase orders as approved by the approval matrix document. That means these purchase orders have followed the approval matrix. Then from the list, identify all the POs that have a blank in the approved by field or persons other than the approval matrix. For example, if only the purchase manager is supposed to approve all purchase orders, then in the approved by field in the ERP, you find out, since you have got the data, you find out who else other than the purchase manager has approved. It could be any other name or it could be a blank, because as I said, the company has bypassed the hierarchy. Then the auditor, for all these blank and any other name that is appearing in the approval by field, the auditor should take that list and go and sit with the client and understand and get an explanation from the client for the reasons why the approval matrix was bypassed. What is the reason? Was there any logical reason, or was it due to some other deliberate action by which the purchase orders were not approved by the purchase manager? Then the auditor will have to perform other substantive procedures to obtain comfort of the purchase amount appearing in the financial statement. So you as an auditor will need to see what is the total purchase amount, how much came via proper flow that is approved by the purchase manager, and what is the amount that came without an approval or approved other than the purchase manager. And for that amount, you need to devise an appropriate procedure to see or get comfort over that particular amount. This procedure you will have to perform for every area of audit that you are involved in. So in this case, we have found some exceptions in purchase. It could be in any area. For any other area also, you need, if the data is available in the system, which it generally should be, if the client is capturing all the data, then you can perform other procedures to arrive at a particular amount which has skipped the defined process as given in the ERP. Once that is done, what is the next step that you as an auditor need to do? You should communicate the deficiencies to the client. SA 265 states communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management. So it makes it necessary for the auditor to communicate control deficiencies to the management, and they must give it in writing, and also whether same deficiencies were present in the prior periods of audit. Another point to note is, if you see the guidance on internal financial controls or financial reporting, it states the auditor has identified a design deficiency in a control. Prior to the balance sheet date, the company has rectified the design of the control. The auditor may test the implemented change for design and operating effectiveness. So, if you have found a design deficiency, you have communicated it to the client has gone ahead and rectified the design, then you as an auditor should find out if that control is working as on the balance sheet date. So once again, the timing of the testing that we spoke of earlier will come into picture. You have to accordingly time the testing of your control testing procedures as part of your audit procedures. Also note, if the GITCs are ineffective, that means if the general information technology controls are ineffective, then the auditor will have to test the automated controls closer to the balance sheet date to support the opinion on internal financial controls. So once you have communicated, the other step that you need to do is assess the impact of deficiencies to develop a response to the risk of material misstatement as given in SA 240. So, to develop a response to SA 240, that is the auditor's responsibility related to fraud in an audit of financial statements, you need to assess the impact of deficiencies. You first need to find out from the client the reasons for the deficiency. Then you also need to understand whether there are any compensating or mitigating controls or factors, if any, as put in place by the client. If there are any, you need to test them for design and operating effectiveness as part of your audit procedure, because this will have an impact on the deficiency. If there are no compensating or mitigating factors, then the impact may be higher. If there are, then the impact or the risk might be mitigated by the compensating or the mitigating factor of control. As I said, you need to do additional testing or perform additional testing as required. You need to assess whether it will be better to test these additional compensating controls or factors or any other testing. It need not be only controls, it might be any other procedure. You need to assess whether any additional testing is required, and then you need to communicate to those charged with governance, and also if they are severe, they need to form a part of your audit report. So to summarize what we have tried to learn as part of this session, we have understood what are automated application controls. We have understood the 5 types of automated application controls, how to identify or where to identify the automated application controls, that is by understanding the business processes, obtaining a process understanding, and then identifying the control. Then once the controls are identified, the procedures for review of design effectiveness and operating effectiveness of the application controls, the timing, that is when to test automated application controls, GITCs are effective, GITCs are ineffective, so you need as an auditor to decide when to test automated application controls. The sample sizes, as I said, take a look at all scenarios, whether you need to consider those scenarios when you decide on sample sizes. And finally, you need to assess the impact of deficiencies in automated application controls. You need to assess whether where do the deficiencies lead to, whether there are any compensating or mitigating factors, whether any additional testing is required, how to perform the testing, when to perform the testing, etc. Once you have assessed the impact of deficiencies, you need to report them to those charged with governance, or also, if required, in the audit report. Friends, now we come to the end of the session on automated application controls. I hope it was informative. You can also refer to the study material with you. Thank you very much for staying with me through this session. Thank you.